I wanted to talk about some of the recent or most infamous shootings that happened, starting with Columbine. Eric Harris, he was on a generic brand of Luvox, which is an antidepressant. Adam Lanza was responsible for the Sandy Hook shooting. He was prescribed a small dose of Celexa. He was actually experiencing adverse effects from that drug. James Holmes, who was responsible for the Aurora movie theater shooting, he was on a generic version of the antidepressant Zoloft. The Virginia Tech shooter, he was on some form of prescription medication. They didn't list what it was. The guy that was responsible for the Fort Hood shootings, he was also on he was actually on a cocktail, they say, of Celexa, Wellbutrin, Ambien, and Lunesta, all different kinds of psychotropic drugs. Sleeping pills are another form of psychotropic drugs. They're not SSRIs, but they do affect the brain in a very scary way also. As you can see, these are just a very small amount because honestly, I could keep going with this. It's just that I don't want to. I think it's a little bit draining to continue to talk about all these people. What's important to note is that these people have been on some form of medication which have been prescribed by your doctor. They'll prescribe these kinds of medications not knowing what kinds of effects it could really have on somebody and testing it out, and then these people go on crazy shooting rampages, and then the media wants to turn it around. Guns are really not the issue. The root of the problem, because if you sign away your rights to be able to protect yourself against a government that is going to arm itself, it's very dangerous. It's a very dangerous road to walk on. And I am not personally into guns. I don't really like them. I don't really like owning anything that I feel I could hurt people with. It bothers me because I'm not a violent person, and I don't like to think of scenarios where I might need to be violent. But I would like to have the ability to protect myself against somebody else who has guns if somebody came at me with guns. So guns are not really the issue here. What the issue, and it's not being talked about nearly as much, is the amount of psychotropic drugs that are being prescribed, the suicide rates that have gone up in veterans and just in everyday civilian life. People are killing themselves. Here's just a list of some shootings that have occurred but are related to drug use. 31-year-old Lori Dan, who had been taking anafranil and lithium, walked into a second grade classroom, began shooting. 1 child was killed, 6 were wounded. This was in 1988. 19-year-old James Wilson went on a shooting rampage in Greenwood, South Carolina Elementary School and killed 2 8-year-old girls and wounded 7 others. He'd been on Xanax, Valium, and 5 other drugs. Kip Kinkle, a 15-year-old of Springfield, Oregon, in 1998, murdered his parents and proceeded to his high school where he went on a rampage, killing 2 students and wounding 22 others. Kinkle had been prescribed both Prozac and Ritalin. 10-year-old Tommy Beckton in 1996 grabbed his 3-year-old niece as a shield and aimed a shotgun at a sheriff deputy who accompanied a truant officer to his Florida home. He'd been put on Prozac, a 10-year-old. Okay? 1999, Sean Cooper, 15, of Notice, Idaho, took a shotgun to school and injured 1 student. He had been taking Ritalin. In 2000, TJ Solomon, 15, opened fire at Heritage High School in Georgia while on a mix of antidepressants. 6 were wounded. Jason Hoffman, 18, in 2001, was on Effexor and Celexa, both antidepressants, when he wounded 2 teachers at California's Granite Hills High School. 2005, 16-year-old Native American Jeff Weiss on the Red Lake Indian Reservation in Minnesota was under the influence of the antidepressant Prozac when he shot and killed 9 people and wounding 5 before committing suicide. 16-year-old Victor Branacaccio attacked and killed an 81-year-old woman, covered her corpse with red spray paint. He was 2 months into a Zoloft regimen. In 1998, GlaxoSmithKline, maker of Paxil, was ordered to pay $6.4 million to surviving family members after Donald Schnell, 60, just 48 hours after taking Paxil, flew into a rage and killed his wife, daughter, and granddaughter. So the list goes on. It goes on and it goes on. And these are just people that have killed other people. You can go onto this website, ssristories.org, and I'll link it also. You can check it out. It's a collection of news articles from all throughout the world. I don't know if it's throughout the world or just the U.S., but I want to say it's definitely throughout the U.S., and it's a collection of articles. You can go to the original articles and look at them. But about these people who have either committed suicides, killed somebody, whether even if it wasn't a mass shooting or whatever, if it was they killed their neighbor or something, and of course the collection of the mass shootings that have been happening. There is a very dangerous thing occurring right now, and it's that the medical industry is performing experiments on the people right now. They don't know what drugs are going to work on the brain. They don't know what is going to affect the brain a very specific way. And so these long-term effects are now coming out, and it's coming out in an explosion. And I think it is very dangerous to mess with the chemical levels in your brain. And I hope that any of my friends that have children will never put their children on any form of ADD medication or any form of antidepressant while they are children especially. I think that that is a decision that you should make as an adult, and you should make it. I think that you should look into it if you want to put your brain at risk for all of these very scary consequences. You have to decide if it's worth it. I can't tell you. I have no idea what it's like to feel depressed in a way that I feel that I need medication, or feel anxiety in a way that I feel that I need medication. I don't know if I feel it more or less than people, because I do feel those things. But I have figured out ways that I deal with that. And Peter Breggin, if you guys get a chance to check out this book, he offers solutions and ways that you can help yourself overcome different mental diagnoses. You're not a lost cause. There's nothing wrong with you. You can be healed, and it's not something that he made up. It's something that he actually did. He didn't ever prescribe his patients drugs. He talked to them and he helped them figure out what was the cause of why they were reacting a certain way. And I think that it's very important that we just remember to talk to each other. And I know that sounds very silly, but people just want to be heard. And a lot of times we don't know why we react a certain way. We just react. And it can manifest in a very crazy, you might look like you're schizophrenic or something, but you can figure out ways to help yourself, and you don't have to depend on the pharmaceutical industry to supply you with a drug that is not only going to not help you, but it's actually going to cause permanent damage. And there seems to be a small percentage, maybe it's a lot bigger than we know, but there seems to be a small percentage of the population reacting very violently to these drugs, and it's very scary, and you don't know who that could be. It could be anybody you know. So anyways, let me know what you think about psychotropic drugs. If any of you guys have read Peter Breggin, I would love to know more about what his work says and any books that you guys might recommend. And yeah, just look into all this stuff. It's important.